This show is made possible by the generous support of listeners just like you. Our show is about helping souls grow, prosper, and evolve, and every gift ensures that we can continue to do this. So we thank our generous supporters and also ask if you would like to be a part of supporting this important effort to bring this message of truth to the world. Please consider heading to experienceofthesoul.com/support to be a part of supporting us by being a regular patron or making a one-time gift. Blessings on the journey, dear friend.
Natural Awakenings Magazine, Zen Living Realty, and Support Tech Staffing present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 125. We welcome very special guest, jazz pianist, and author of Effortless Mastery, Kenny Werner. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host. I'm here in 818 Studios with my producer.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey, episode 125. I can't believe 125 episodes, middle of November. Really happy to have you on board with us this week.
Yeah, glad you're here. We always love to be the ones to say Happy Monday. We are so honored to be a part of your spiritual journey. And today is no exception. We're super excited today because we have a guest in the studio with us, Mr. Kenny Werner. So Kenny, yay. Thank you for joining us today.
Sure. Pleasure.
So I brought you on for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons really is because of the impact you've had on my journey and of so many people that I serve. I learned about your work about when your book first came out, Effortless Mastery. A good friend of mine who's a jazz musician, he's a B3 player out of Kansas City, he told me about your book, Effortless Mastery, and then I got together with another musician and another actually a minister, and we did all of your meditations from that book every single day for a year.
Wow. Whoa.
And that created a really important foundation. Obviously, I've had wonderful spiritual teachers along the way, but your meditations, your book, has really informed my process and my spiritual journey, and certainly has impacted the lives of many of my students, many people that I've mentored. Everyone I work with seriously gets recommended, your book gets recommended to them, even if they're not musicians or not. So whether a musician or not, your book is in their hands, and it's a big encouragement. So first of all, I just want to thank you for that.
That's an honor. That is an honor. Thank you for telling me that. I'm honored that it's been that much of service.
Oh, it has. And much like you, I've been a student of the Eastern teachings as well. And grew up, and my first career was as a musician before I went into the ministry. And so now I'm off on my own. And in one of your meditations, you say, if you do this, basically, if you think these thoughts for the next 10 years, right, your life will look very different from the way it looks today. And I can tell you that is a fact.
Wow. Thank you. I'm not above telling you that makes me feel much better for today.
Very good. Well, this is a really strange time to be alive with everything going on in the world. And that's the other thing. What I've been really doing in my spiritual process is reaching out to people that have meant a lot to me or mean a lot to me. And I noticed that my connections, my work has become a lot more intentional, that I don't want to waste energy in places I shouldn't be, and I want to be focused on what's mine to do. So I'm so happy you're here, and I'm just feeling like right now I'd love to have you play something. Are you feeling that? I'm just feeling that right now.
I am, but the great thing about this philosophy is I will put my hands on there without feeling it, and then my hands will lead me there. So I'd be happy to do that.
Exactly. Nice. Yeah. Thank you. So I know your performance career started, when you were very young, and you've had quite a journey with both your playing and your spirituality. And I'd love for you to tell our listeners a little bit, if you will, about your journey. Like, how did you get here? How did you get to what you call effortless mastery? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it was kind of a different path, which is why the book has carved such a different path. People really feel like it's, rather than it being a, certainly not dogma, but, like just that kind of thing, it really comes off like somebody's, realizations. Because it was a very non-erudite work. It wasn't. I went back after I wrote the book and checked out some scriptural stuff and the Sufis, and I had read Zen and the Art of
Archery.
Of archery, but I had to go back to realize that something I had known since I was a child actually had very deep old roots.
Yes.
In ancient philosophy and spirituality. I wasn't really a spiritual person. In a way, I don't feel like a spiritual person now in the sense of pursuing. But I've always had a natural liberation in playing. Mm-hmm. And I had to find out as I went on that wasn't common. I thought everybody had that. Mm-hmm. I thought, well, what are you getting excited about? It's only music.
Right. Which
is actually in the book.
Yes.
What is everybody getting bent out of shape for? This is just music. I grew up on Long Island, and I knew that music was a way of drawing people to me. And that probably was its biggest value. And I had fun playing it, but it didn't mean a whole lot more to me until I went to college and I realized that people were really on. It's not like I wasn't unaware of the classical world and the jazz world. I just wasn't that interested. Mm-hmm. So when I went to college, I really felt like out of step with everybody. And when I went to Berkeley, what was good is that there were a lot of people there that didn't know what they were doing there at that time.
Right.
And so I felt in good company. And then I really made some really good jazz friends, friends that really were into jazz. Mm-hmm. So as I played with them, I came out sort of rubber stamped as a jazz player, which I've actually never considered myself. Mm-hmm. I consider myself a soundtrack. Mm-hmm. And the soundtrack can have the stories. I'm not even in charge of the stories. But, I don't try to be as specific as what story am I telling. But more and more, and what I found is I started to teach this kind of half not caring and half detachment.
Yes.
As soon as you call it detachment, everybody cares about it. Yes, I want to be detached.
Right. And actually, that was very helpful to me when I first read your book as well. And just the approach of the instrument and the step one of literally the idea of just playing one note. And I should say too, Kenny, I want to back up and say that when I started using the material in your book, I had left music as a career, but was moving into full-time pulpit ministry in a denomination called Unity. And so what I was really working on is my speaking skills. So, and today now I teach, ministerial students and things like that. But part of what was so helpful in your book was moving myself out of the way, which of course is the idea, that we are channels for the divine, or whatever name you call it, whether it's the self or the one or the Christ or the Buddha nature, whatever. But that was probably one of the most powerful things. And then I could let my ego step aside, as your meditation says, even if it's just for a few moments. Right. And in my life now, my most times I feel most connected and most free. There's two times. One is meditating, and the other is when I'm speaking, speaking or teaching. And that's the gift that your work has to offer.
Wow. Well, again, thank you. I'm honored. But music has there's a Sanskrit word, Maya, mm-hmm. which means delusion. Which I'm sorry for all the people that name their kids Maya, because in other languages it's such a beautiful name. But it's not necessarily not beautiful either. It's part of the whole. God framework, and Maya delusion is what we're here to see through. So actually it's quite important. But the Maya of music was so important that there are people that really have found the essence in everything else they do. And then when they play music, the pseudo importance of how they play interrupts everything that they've been doing the rest of the week. That is about spirit, not about narcissism, right? So music must have a powerful Maya. And I have a great story about that. there was one of the things I study a certain path, which I never talk about in public because I'm not a representative of it. And,
Sure, that's fine.
and neither are they looking for that to happen.
Yeah.
But I've been doing it, playing simple chants at this place with a teacher and
Right.
So, and the swamis too. So one time the teacher, who is known as a guru, sent one of the swamis to my house for a piano lesson, which was very funny because this man, I would say, was as free of the samskaras. That's another thing.
Yes.
Sanskrit word. Samskaras mean the scars
Yes.
of attachments and, what makes this life a delusion, So, I mean, she told him to go live in the woods for 3 months without even thinking why or what. There he was, Why would she send him over for a piano lesson? So he came in and he sat down at my piano and he immediately looked like this, because people feel inadequate, unworthy, just sitting in front of a piano.
Yeah.
So I looked at him knowing the one place I don't feel unworthy. See, I'm like the opposite of everybody. Everybody's trying to achieve liberation and they get hung up when they play the instrument. I am liberated when I play the instrument and I'm trying to achieve it in my life. I know what it looks like, but it doesn't cross over that's no guarantee of that. In fact, I don't find it even helps at all. It just makes the other stuff, which I'm not particularly endowed with, harder.
I get it. Believe me.
Because the first time I started to play this instrument, as I say in the book, I went and I started working out the melodies I heard on the radio, and I went into the kitchen and I said to my mom, "Good news, we won't need those lessons. I just figured out how to play." And I've rarely veered from that belief as I try, but in life, I've gotten better. I'm moving along those lines, but I don't think I'm particularly talented yogi. I'm just working on it and trying to be patient with myself. So anyway, this guy's sitting there and I see something from him I've never seen before. And I said to him, "Swamiji, did you forget who you are?" And he looked at me, he looked at the piano, and he burst out laughing.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the piano lesson.
Yeah, I was going to say, therein lies the lesson.
And we thought, what a brilliant stroke from our teacher, I mean, who can recognize bondage in any form and keep looking for little corners of it.
Beautiful.
That all inspires me. I've got more than corners when it comes to all that stuff, but I really work on it every day. This pandemic time has been more of a retreat for me than anything else. But I am giving it away more than I ever have because now I can see anybody anywhere like this. So I've been much more available. And I'm sure you feel this way too. The best way to feel happy is to be teaching it to someone else.
Oh, absolutely true. Absolutely true. And I'm a constant student as well. I work with a spiritual teacher, and I also am working with a vocal teacher out of New York, and she's been really amazing. I've studied with her for about 5 years, and so I keep studying music, and there's music at my home every day, whether it's I'm playing piano, my son's playing violin, or we've got on the radio or listening to old folk songs. We constantly have music going at our house. But I'm also applying these principles, like you say, to the best of my ability in all areas. And it's interesting to me that even though I was a career musician, I didn't have your information available to me when I was studying in college and things like that. But I'm clear that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing now, and I know it because of how I enter what you call, and I love this name for it, what you call the space. Yeah. Right? When I enter that, everything seems possible. All is well. I am connected to everything, and I want to start the second half with you talking about it, but I just want to say a word about that. It takes a lot of working with your thoughts to get there. I mean, it's not like it just happened instantly for me. It was an effort over time of really just stopping the mind, and kind of retraining. And now when I go to speak, it is, sometimes it starts to happen even before, like right before I speak these, if I can just take one good deep breath, I am there.
Yeah, I understand. it can be programmed. You know, we can get into it more in a second thing, but
Yep.
I would always tell people, go into the space, touch the instrument. Go into the space, touch the instrument. Go into the space. At some point, if you're not counting and you're not worrying about when it's going to happen, you're going to touch the instrument and go into the space.
Very good. Yes, let's talk more about that when we come back right after these brief messages. And we have with us today Mr. Kenny Werner.
We'll return to the program in just a few moments, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, Natural Awakenings Magazine of Central Florida, Greater Orlando. Each month, Natural Awakenings magazines across the country take a practical look at the latest natural approaches to nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. Natural Awakenings magazine is a free publication and is available in selected stores, health and education centers, healing centers, public libraries, and wherever free publications are located. You could learn more, including advertising opportunities for your business, by calling 407-628-0705. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Zen Living Realty. Zen Living Realty's mission is to mindfully serve, connect, and positively impact their customers, partners, and community through their Zen approach to real estate. Their vision is to be the most trusted real estate brokerage in the Central Florida area. You can reach Zen Living Realty at zenlivingrealty.com or by calling 407-800-2717. And finally, we'd also like to give a special thanks to Support Tech Staffing. Support Tech Staffing is an innovative staffing agency built on the principle of caring about their employers and employees as they navigate these new workforce and workplace challenges. If you're an employer, they want to be your human resources partner and help with the changes needed during the pandemic. If you're a candidate, they want to become your lifelong career agent to help you grow into your fullest potential. Support Tech prioritizes support over volume, integrity over profits, and will treat your business and your career as if it was their own. You can learn more at supporttechstaffing.com. That's SUPPORTEK staffing.com. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Yeah, and that was. I remember that's a song you wrote. What's the name of that tune?
It's got it's got a subtitle. It's called Shower Song, and in subtitle it's called You Make Me Sing. So there is a little story, and I believe there's a parable in there for for us spiritualites. What happened is I was taking a shower, and the water was so nice and warm, and this melody started to come to me. So now I'm listening to the melody, and it came to me all at once because the external sensation of warm water was putting me in a space.
Right.
Of
Right.
course, the problem with external mechanisms is that they're temporary.
Exactly.
Right. But they indicate that it would be really great if you could develop an internal mechanism
Yes.
that feels like it's always taking a shower. So anyway, so then I started to think like a musician or a jazz musician. Well, I can't just be that. It's too simple or whatever. What could I do to it? And then it sort of disappeared. So what I did was I made the shower hotter. So I could re-experience the buzz of the shower. And then the song came back in total.
Yeah.
And then I realized, do not mess with it. The giver of the song, the giver of the song is the shower. And there it is. So the shower was the giver of the song. Just leave it that way. So literally, the feeling of warm water wrote that tune entirely. But when I tried to get in the way with it by engineering it in some way, the shine of it vanished. Doesn't mean we can't use our minds. It means that when you get a direct transmission, just write it down.
Right. Take dictation.
Don't get in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. The ego always wants to control and figure it out and look good and
Context, all this stuff.
all this stuff.
Who am I? Yeah.
Yeah,
true.
exactly. And, our show is, it's called The Authentic Spiritual Journey. And we are always talking about the soul growth, the soul evolving. And of course, we're all human beings in this spiritual experience we call life. And so, there's always the temptation of the ego every moment.
Yeah.
So I'm glad for you to share that because it's helpful for people on the journey to really hear other people they admire, respect, having the same issues and also finding the same freedom when we can release, those pieces of the ego that want to come in and all of a sudden we're operating from fear instead of joy, freedom, and liberation.
Well, I don't think you mentioned it, and I'm not sure you know it, but for the last 6 years, I've been the artistic director of the Effortless Mastery Institute at Berklee College of Music.
No, I wasn't aware of that. Now, I got invited and attended just a few days ago, but no, I didn't even know about it. I'll be honest. I was so focused on your book and the meditations, and I kept trying to see you live in New York, and I speak usually a few times a year in New York. And every time I would go, you'd be somewhere like around the world, and I never saw you in person. And so I would listen to your music. Oh, you know what? I have to tell you too, one of my favorite recordings of yours is Lawn Chair. Is it Lawn Chair Society?
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
That's an awesome recording. I love it.
Thank you.
But so I didn't keep track of your other work at Berklee. So tell our listeners more about it.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because when I used to teach this, even the book was the product of a 3-day retreat in Denmark.
Oh,
And I had gotten to the point where what I was saying was so codified that I knew I could just write it down. I was not a writer then. I do consider myself a writer now. I've written articles and a lot of stuff. But what I did was I started by transcribing 3-day recording. The purpose of it, they even knew, is that all these licks I had been saying now for several years would get down and I could put it in some kind of book. And of course, you repeat yourself a lot when you're just riffing for hours a day and you don't even have a structure. But every time I said something that had to do with something, that went into a certain folder in my computer. And something else, oh yeah, that's that again. And the names of those folders are darn close to the names of the chapters, what it was about. And but I had, and for years after that, especially after the book, because it was seemed to be very useful and very successful for a lot of people. It continues to be a discovery today. It became one of those books, that generation after generation finds at a certain time. But here's the thing. I never really did more than spend a few days at a school and then split. And I knew whatever expansion they felt would contract, and everything I said would be said in a way that went along with their belief systems. In other words, what I said to them would be harder to them a day later or 3 days later. What I said was they would make it more meaningful when I was saying make it less meaningful. Just do it. I mean, all the subtleties of that would be gone, you know. So when I started teaching at Berkeley, and Berkeley had been routinely using my book, many people, it was unofficially, a lot of people in many schools actually would just buy it every year, and teachers would tell them to do that. So when I reached out to Roger Brown, the president of the school, and I said, you know, I'm getting to a certain age. I don't necessarily want to tour like I've been touring. I think I'm ready. I still get letters and emails about how much the book is doing. I'm not even doing it. The book is doing it. So I said, I think I'd like to actually teach that and support it. And they jumped on it right away. It took a while to get up the right facility, but my point is that since I've been doing it there, I've been teaching the steps of it. It's all in the steps.
Yes.
Those are the reprogramming mechanisms that try to reprogram what you read in the whole first part of the book. You know, those things that everybody knows, geez, how did he know that? I do that all the time. You know, well, those steps are reprogramming. You mentioned the first step.
Right.
The idea is it's not about the profundity of playing one note. It just starts at a note at a time, actually touching the instrument without caring. That's why we do one note at a time, because if I did too many in a row, I'd immediately, not me, but a person that's used to identifying their value with the instrument would immediately start controlling it. So the first step is as simple as it has to be. Drop a finger and watch yourself breathe. But what I was going to say, since I've been teaching it as semesters, some of the things have been really refined and upgraded. For example, you were talking about the struggle to get into this space and how we're this. So I realized, relating to my own laziness, I kept finding something that would work for me. So for example, instead of any kind of breathing exercise, I've started to use this the last few years, which whoever's listening could just check this out. This takes nothing to do because there's no reason to do a breathing exercise. You're already breathing.
Right.
Everybody in earshot is breathing right now.
Right.
Here is the simplest thing in the world. For 20 seconds, just watch yourself breathe. And we'll just hold it there. And if all you did was just watch yourself breathe, you were immediately in the space.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And here's the thing: the 20 seconds is important too. It could be 30 seconds.
Right.
But you want to do the simplest thing in the world for a very short time, just to find out that the crossover is much easier than we've all thought.
Agreed. Yes.
And then you just walk away from it. So I say to people, do this exercise. Sometimes it's going to change your whole perspective, but don't expect it to change your whole perspective next day. If you are worried about the world or worried about your place in the world, take a break for 20 seconds. Do something that's meaningless and easy. I always say, kiddingly, especially these days, it's so easy, even an American could do it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay? You could have a pork chop in one hand and a beer in the other. And if I said, are you breathing? You could say, yeah, I'm breathing. Just watch yourself do it for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And they would experience God inside themselves.
Absolutely.
So I have one chapter in my new book where I joke that God said, hey, God doesn't talk like a pope, he talks like a jazz musician, you know, in this book. He says, no, you're all, you know, costumes, rituals. No, I made it really simple. There's a button in your butt. Push the button and all your problems will be over, you know. So I'm talking about I talk about the space. In the book, I talk about the spot. So you find a spot, and that spot you design, like we design buttons in a computer program. Design that button. I touch that spot, I go into the space. But it all should be done really short, because you should go completely knowing that your commitment is only 20 seconds. And every time you do that, it's a David and Goliath kind of thing. You're throwing rocks, little pebbles at a giant. But if you keep going there completely, and then you leave it before it leaves you,
yes,
you know, you are poking holes in that wall of darkness, and little peeps of light are coming through, and those light things get bigger, and it becomes a little more like Swiss cheese. And then you find, from neurological familiarity with this change, that you can shift. You know, I mean, I could wake up today and be thinking of things I have no control over, which is very natural. That's how we get caught in the ego, of course. You know,
Of course.
we're trying to protect ourselves. And I go, okay, finally at the point where I go, all right, I see where this is going. Asking myself questions that have no answers today. I know this never ends well.
Right, exactly.
I think I'll just watch myself breathe. And if I don't even say to myself, even today, I'll just watch myself breathe for 30 seconds. I can't get there. If I try to do it with a purpose, it suddenly fails me. So God's got this really weird sense of humor. You can have anything you want as long as you drop wanting it.
Exactly. As long as there's absolutely no attachment to having it.
Right. Now, why he did that, she did that, why they did that, I have no idea. Actually, I have a really funny thing in this book. I start putting, you know how you say BCAD?
Yes.
In the middle of the book, not even the whole book, I say God, IHE, period, period, period. And in the footnote, it says, if he exists.
Yeah.
So you don't have to even know if you're talking to anybody.
Well, it's true.
It's the quality of your faith that there is something.
Yes.
That makes it. We don't know what it is. But if you practice saying, okay, every time I watch myself breathing, I'm back in this moment. It's a statistical fact. The breathing is the second hand of a clock. If I take myself out of thinking I've got to be really smart on this podcast and watch myself breathe, which we only did for 20 seconds, I am actually in the physical universe in this moment. And the more I get used to that, the easier it is to break, even when I'm in pain. Which I often am for the same reasons everyone else is.
Yes.
Right? I'll just go, you know what? I'm going to watch myself for 30 seconds, breathe, and it doesn't have to change a damn thing. That's the other thing. Expecting success, assessing your progress, all these things are what the devil threw in there to talk you out of even doing it.
I know, it's so true. Well, in the moments, you know, in one of your meditations, I know that, and you spoke to this a moment ago, there's a phrase you say that, you know, every time you find this place inside yourself, it becomes easier to go back there. And that, you know, anybody who takes my courses or that I work with, you know, one-on-one knows that one of the requirements is going to be, you know, to do this work in consciousness. I say you can read about it all you want. You can think about it all you want. You have to do the practice of, you know, just becoming present to yourself. And then you do have those moments, but you're right. Anytime we have expectations of that, it doesn't happen. And,
well, let's say they do your exercises and it works phenomenally.
Yes.
That's their next hurdle.
Yes, I know. Yes.
Expecting it to do that again, and then they can't find it.
I know.
So what I've noticed over these semesters is I focused it more on a short amount of time, and when it starts working, I remind them, if the ego says, it's like check, but not checkmate. The ego says, wow, this is really working. If you want to escape checkmate, say, well, I'll do it now and fail at it.
Yes. Well,
you know, and I say, I remind myself, Kenny said, it doesn't need to work. I just need to do it. Then you remember it's so easy to do.
Right.
It only gets hard when you have results and then you expect them. Now you have to be in the right state of mind to do it. Boom, devil, checkmate.
Well, and some of my best moments speaking literally have been if I didn't feel good or I wasn't feeling great about what was next. And, you know, suddenly something else took over and I got done and went, wow, I don't even think I could say exactly what just happened, but I'm glad I got to be there for it. And, but it's so not personal to me. And I think even though, well, I started to say, I think there's a great humility to this that, because you're really not needed in the equation and except to be a channel for it.
You know, when we think of humility, we think of these like, you know, martyrs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so it's a very targeted humility. It can be practiced as a strategy. Humility means all you're carrying is right here. Let me step over here. And there has to be a here. And that's the purpose of these little meaningless exercises, to be able to go there just like that. Once I'm not there, you know, taking all the drama out of even arriving allows us to arrive more often. And like I say, I've refined it because I finally do it as semesters. It's. I found some things that are so easy, even an American could do it.
That's a great comment. Well, Kenny, we're so grateful for you being on the show. I want to mention again, the name of your book is Effortless Mastery, and there is a new 20th anniversary edition. And the kind of the subtitle or the tagline on the book says, Liberating the Master Musician Within. And I want to encourage you, though, even if you're not a musician, this is an incredible book. Use a little imagination, apply it to any area of your life, and I promise you, you will be blessed just by reading it, if nothing else, just to honor somebody's profound spiritual journey and a profound connection. But Kenny, before we let you sign off, we really want to have you play one more time, and I do thank you for your time today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. Oh, what should I play? I don't know. Little different vibe.
Perfect. Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. I always hear so many styles in your playing. I love it. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed myself.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey, presented by Natural Awakenings Magazine, Zen Living Realty, and Support Tech Staffing. This channel is also made possible through the continued support of our angel patrons, Aggie Payton, Anna Evans, Arlene Meyer, Diana Cox, Leslie Williams, Nora Miles, Sean Kilgore, Susanna Garcia, and Taryn Tucker. If you'd like to support the channel as a patron on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2020, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.